Hello everyone, I'm David Colleen. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at OpenLearning. I'd like to demonstrate this new AI assistant technology and the features that we've added to the tools in the OpenLearning platform. I've started by creating a course activity page in the normal way that we do on the platform, but what you'll see here is that instead of having a blank slate, I now have an AI assistant that can help to build a learning activity alongside me. I can just click Suggest a Learning Activity and it brings up the new AI assistant. To start off with, I need to give the AI assistant some information about the kind of course that I'm trying to build here. This is a customer service in retail course, and it's for young adults entering the service industry. And I can also set a default tone for the activities in the course. This is a conversational and encouraging communication style that I want for this course. So this sets up the context for the AI assistant. And then after that, I can select an activity type. The AI has been taught how to build all of these different types of learning activities, and Sean will delve into that side a little bit later. But to start off with, I'll choose something very simple just to show off the feature set. This is a share and review activity. It's a very common activity type in OpenLearning. Learners share their work on a topic and then they're encouraged to review each other's contributions. Now, I want my new activity to be about persuasive communication. And I'm just going to leave the rest of this blank because I want to see what the AI comes up with on its own. I don't want to give it too much information. I want to see what it can do without my influence. And I'm going to select this learning outcome. So I can select the course learning outcomes to influence the design of the activity. This is one of the learning outcomes for the course. It's to develop effective communication skills for interacting with customers. So I think that's relevant to this activity. And then I'm just going to click generate. And I'm going to see what it comes up with. So right now, what it's doing is it's taking all of that information that I gave it. It's giving, it's got the course topic, it's got the audience, the communication style, the activity is going to be about persuasive communication. It's got the learning outcomes, and it's combining that with knowledge of all the activity design principles for that chosen activity type. And it's also combining that with knowledge of the design and interaction elements that are used to create activities in the OpenLearning platform. And now that it's finished generating, you can see that it's created a ready-to-use learning experience. It's not only generated the text for the activity, but also chosen the formatting and selected the appropriate interactive widgets to use and configured them all correctly. And it's all set up ready to use for this activity type. What we can do from here is we can refine this activity further with this refine button down the bottom. So if there's something that we don't like about the activity or something we'd like to change, we can just ask it to refine it. And I'm just going to say, hey, how about you add some extra stuff to this activity? Let's add a list of 5 principles for communicating persuasively with a customer and put it at the top of the activity. So we can click refine, give it that suggestion. That can be everything from very specific instructions. It can be about formatting. It can be about anything you like. But what it's doing is it's combining that new suggestion with what it generated before, and how it works under the hood is it's very similar to ChatGPT in that it's using the GPT-4 model in the background. But instead of being a chatbot, it's using our own framework that describes how an open learning activity works with all its widgets and tools and various capabilities. So it's not only reasoning about the language of the text to generate, but also the structure and the relationships between the various learning design elements. So it knows how all the different widgets work together, as well as the procedural know-how of how to format and design an activity within the platform. And it's putting all that together to generate this interactive activity designed for the OpenLearning platform, ready to go for the learner. And here it is. It's put those 5 principles at the top here, like I asked it to: establish rapport and build trust, active listening, empathy, clear and concise communication, provide solutions. So it's put that in there. I quite like this one, but what we could actually do from here is we could continue refining it. We could select from all the different versions that we've been playing with. I like this latest version, so I'm going to select that one. I'm going to keep that one. And I can edit this just like an ordinary page. I could, like, for example, change some of the formatting. And this is now just an ordinary OpenLearning activity page for me as a learning designer to touch up and make my own based on what was generated by the AI. I'm now going to hand over to Dr. Sean Thompson, who will actually delve further into that learning design thinking and all the thinking that we've put behind some of those other activity types. So over to you, Sean.
Thanks, David. So I'll just be sharing my screen too. Okay. So as we just saw in some of David's examples there, the AI assistant can use some fairly simple prompts to create full interactive activities using the platform's tools and features. And notice in a lot of David's examples, our activity designs often get the learners to produce learning artifacts, which is what we call things that a learner creates and submits while completing the learning activities. These learning artifacts are the evidence of their learning. They capture the student's learning process. Now, designing learning activities like this is something we've taught the AI assistant to do because it enables learners to create portfolios of evidence of their learning. So I'm going to go through a few more examples for you now, a few more demos, to highlight some of the learning design patterns that we've taught to the AI. At OpenLearning, we have a large number of learning design patterns that align with our philosophy of social learning. So the first demo I'll do is this one here in this course, Cooking at Home. So a life skills-based course. We're going to say it's targeted at students on a budget. And I'll look at this specific learning outcome to develop skills in meal planning and budgeting and to learn how to shop for ingredients on a budget. Now, one of the learning design patterns that we have taught to the AI assistant, which might be appropriate here, is one that we call Meet the Brief. So I'm going to set it up, and then while it's thinking, I'll explain that learning design pattern in a bit more detail. So the pattern we're going to use is this one here, Meet the Brief. And like most of our patterns, there's a few pieces of information that you can give. Really, for the Meet the Brief pattern, the key piece of information is this one here, to specify a scenario for the role play, because the Meet the Brief activity pattern is a role play activity, which I'll explain more in a moment. But for now, I'll just give it a scenario to work with. So given that the learning outcome we're looking at here is around developing skills in meal planning, the scenario I'm going to give it is to create a meal for a dinner party. Okay, so that's the scenario I'll give it. I won't give it any additional notes right now. I will select that relevant learning outcome that I was looking at here, which is the meal planning one. And these are all tags. So David showed you through these. When you create a course in OpenLearning, you can specify the learning outcomes for that course, and the platform will create tags for those learning outcomes that you can use in this tool, but also more widely in our portfolio-based learning and assessment. So I'll go into that in more detail later. But for now, I'll just select meal planning because that was the relevant learning outcome. And I'll leave the tone as playful. That's the tone I set for this course. I think it's appropriate for the course and probably appropriate for this activity. So I'll get that going. Okay, so it's thinking. So I'll explain a little bit more about this pattern. So Meet the Brief, like I said, it's a role-playing style of activity. The idea is that the learners play two roles. They'll first play a client. So in the context of your course, the relevant learning outcome or learning outcomes, and the scenario you provide, as a client, each learner will come up with some kind of job and set some kind of brief for that job. And they'll share that with the rest of the class. And then learners will also play the role of a creative, in which case they'll choose one of the job briefs that another learner has set and then try to meet that brief, to fulfill that brief, to actually do the job. So let's see how the AI assistant has gone. So dinner party on a dime. It's giving a bit of an explanation, a bit of an intro for the activity. And yeah, so it says put on your client hat, you're hosting a dinner party. So you want to come up with what you would like. So you're not creating a meal plan at this point. You're more thinking, like as a host, what kind of thing would I want out of a meal plan? And it gives you a few things to think about here, number of guests and so on. But the idea is that each learner as a client will share their job brief. They'll share it here, and then it will appear down here once they start actually doing it. Once they do share it, at that point, it's time to switch roles. You're now a creative, or in this case, a creative chef. And you're going to look through all of the job briefs that others have shared about sort of dinner party meal plans thereafter, and you're going to pick one. And you're going to then go about creating a meal plan to meet that brief. And then you are going to create that, and then you're going to share it down here as a file. And then that'll appear down here. And then lastly, all the learners are then told, put your client hat back on, because any creatives that responded to your brief, now's your chance to give them some feedback. So, and it gives you a few questions here to think about as you do that. So I'll keep that one. So there's a couple of key points here that I like to go over. So one is sorry, just 1 second while it loads. One is that basically in creating this activity, we've basically brought one of the learning design patterns to life. So in this case, it's the meet the brief pattern. So it has brought it to life into this structure. But more specifically, what it has done is it's basically given the learners the opportunity to create a few learning artifacts. So 2 in this case, culminating really in this last one, which is where they're going to create their meal plan. So in creating that learning artifact, they are achieving the learning outcome of developing a meal plan and learning how to develop a meal plan. But they're also showing evidence of achieving that learning outcome. And so a teacher or an assessor can come along and actually look at what the learner has created. The last thing I just want to point out about this example is that notice up here, we have this tag at the top of the page, meal planning. Now, what that means in general in the OpenLearning platform is that at least one activity on this page has been tagged with that learning outcome, the meal planning learning outcome. In this case, because we use the tool, actually both points where they've shared have been tagged with that learning outcome. And what that means is that a teacher or an assessor can come along and basically say, and look at and curate the learner's portfolio and slice and dice it in different ways and say, actually over this activity, but also over, say, the entire course, show me the evidence that the learner has achieved this learning outcome. And because these activities have been tagged with that learning outcome, this will be part of that evidence, part of the learner's journey, part of their process of learning.